and welcome back to another exciting episode of Tech Talks, the People and Planet podcast. I'm Tony Marsh, and today I'm absolutely thrilled to have a special guest on the show with us today, someone who's at the very forefront of revolutionizing the way we approach smoking intervention. Joining us today is Tobias, the CEO and co-founder of the Sanos Group, the brains behind the innovative Nuumi product. Tobias, welcome to the show.
Hey, Tony, thank you very much for having us. Real pleasure to be here with you and discussing more about, it's still the big challenge of smoking, to discuss what we have developed and, to really find and conquer this huge addiction.
Absolutely. And look, I'm really eager to dive into the genuinely incredible work that you and your team are doing over there. But I guess before we do that, I wondered, for the listeners, I wondered if maybe you could give us a kind of a brief overview of what the Nuumi product is all about.
Sure. First of all, at Nuumi, so Nuumi is a health tech company, and we are providing and developing technology-enabled therapies to empower humanity to overcome addictions. And so smoking is still the number one addiction, and that's the first one we really want to conquer, because it's still the most diseases and most preventable death, and therefore that's where we had set out to find a real solution. And we came across that actually vaping products, also very popular in the UK, have scientifically proven to be a huge impact on helping people to quit cigarettes. And therefore, we had a deeper look into it and found out that we think we kind of can develop like kind of the Fitbit for smokers to not only help them quit cigarettes, but also ultimately quit nicotine and vaping to develop a new category defining solution for smoking cessation.
Cool. No, thank you for giving us that insight. So, I guess to kind of sort of dive in then, I know from kind of sort of, I guess off-screen conversations that we've kind of sort of had previously, ultimately your company really aims to, not only help people, but also to better the environment by encouraging users not to use tobacco. I wondered if you could, I guess, again, for the listeners and for myself as well, but kind of sort of explain the impact of normal cigarettes and what, the impact they have on the environment and how your product would contribute to kind of sort of bettering those issues.
Absolutely. Look, cigarettes are very harmful to the environment in many ways. The toxic chemicals that are released during smoking, filters that being littered, or the deforestation that's associated basically with tobacco cultivation, and also the environmental impact also includes soil, water, and air pollution, and the list goes on. And it is not only for traditional tobacco cigarettes. The same applies to e-cigarettes, especially the single-use vapes that are very popular in the UK. They are littering the environment with electronic waste. And the lithium inside the batteries is both hazardous and a crucial material actually to fueling the green transition. For example, for battery production of e-vehicles. And so, with Nuumi, we are a smoking cessation program, and that not only helps individuals to quit smoking for their health, but also to contribute to a greener world by reducing tobacco consumption. So we decrease demand for tobacco farming, or leading to less deforestation and waste. And you will also later in the talk hear more about that. We're using a smart vaporizer, which is an electronic device, but in our case, it's only used for temporary use as part of the therapy to help people quit smoking. It's important to mention here that our device is not disposable. Users will only receive one device with basically pods that are reusable and a battery that's rechargeable. And we're also currently working on a recycling program that allows customers at the end of the therapy to return the device and use pods, basically. So as a result, and as a company, really aim at fostering a healthier future for both the individual, but also the environment.
Understood, absolutely. So I think you've kind of sort of touched on a few sort of differences there, but what are the kind of sort of core differences from I guess sort of traditional e-cigarettes and kind of what it is that you're offering ultimately?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think the first thing, just a bit of a background, is that, I mean, look, smoking is still the #1 cause of preventable death, right? It's still a huge problem. And actually, almost every second smoker wants to quit, but very few become non-smokers because quitting methods today are simply not eliminating the common withdrawal symptoms to enable a sustainable behavior change. And that's because the general problem is that when you smoke, cigarette basically dependency has two key components. One is the physical addiction to nicotine, and the other one is the psychological addiction to the habit. And so now there's no real like digital and scalable solution that addresses both of these dependency in a single product. And that's where Nuumi basically comes into play by integrating a solution that treats both components by combining a smart vaporizer designed for smoking cessation and an app-based behavior therapy. And so the clear differentiation is that our vaporizer is kind of like a Fitbit for smokers, right? So the smart device is connected to the Nuumi app via Bluetooth and allows us to track really the puff behavior of users. So we can collect data about how much nicotine is consuming, how much puffs, the duration, and so forth. And by collecting all these real-time insights and creating basically a unique smoking profile per user, we can truly then personalize the entire therapy, both for basically nicotine reduction, but also the behavior therapy. And we are basically distinguish ourselves because we use it rather as an enabler, the e-cigarette, to collect data to drive the behavior change, what is so crucial of quitting smoking, and not just as a replacement for nicotine.
Understood. Well, it sounds absolutely fascinating. I guess, just for, a second, kind of sort of moving away from the tech angle of the product that you're offering, and we'll certainly come back to that. But I'm not sure what it's been like over in Germany, but certainly here in the UK, there's been quite a lot of, I guess, negativity really around some of the substances that some of the disposable e-cigarettes contain lately. I wondered if you could maybe provide some insight into the measures that you have in place, at the Sanos Group with the Nuumi product to ensure that there isn't any harmful substances in the products that you're providing.
Absolutely. I mean, first, I would like to stress that Nuumi vaporizer is not a disposable e-cigarette, right? It's an electronic device, and it's rechargeable, and it's used basically for a long period of time for the therapy. And so the main problem with the single-use vapes is, as mentioned at the beginning, they contain many environmental toxic substances like the lithium-ion battery, and especially consumers simply throw them away into the normal rubbish instead of recycling them properly. So that's where already it starts, right? And in terms of the health impact, there is actually a large body of scientific evidence that shows clearly that e-cigarettes are at least 95% less harmful than traditional combustible tobacco cigarettes. So, and that significant difference is that in traditional cigarettes, tobacco is burned and produced smoke, whereas and through that smoke, basically, it creates thousands of toxins. And e-cigarettes do not contain any tobacco and produce vapor from the e-liquid. And the liquids in the e-cigarettes usually contain only a few ingredients. So propylene glycol, vegetable glycerine, water, and nicotine, and some flavorings. And the ingredients contained in like a Nuumi pod, for example, are fully regulated by the EU Tobacco Products Directive, and also manufactured and produced by a doctor and a pharmacist, close to basically pharmaceutical grade products. And just maybe a bit of understanding also to the individual ingredients, right? Like propylene glycol, for example, is known as to many as disco fog. So it ensures that vapor is produced. And that's also why the products are called vaporizers and are referred as vaping instead of smoking. And the propylene glycol is usually produced pharmaceutically. So it has been classified as non-carcinogenic in numerous studies, actually. And also like the vegetable glycerine also contributes rather to a vapor development and is otherwise found in chewing gums and dates or as sweeteners. So therefore, in summary, e-cigarettes, when they are controlled and produced in the right way according to the regulations are definitely a far less harmful alternative to traditional smoking, especially also for smokers who are looking to quit. And that's why we are using all of the scientific evidence to unlock it in a solution that not only helps you transition to vapes, but do really also the last step to quit, ultimately even vaping.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, you know, I can completely understand kind of where you're coming from on that. I think, you know, here in the UK, a lot of the kind of sort of disposable e-cigarettes, they're not really kind of designed to actually help you quit. If anything, maybe designed to actually get you more addicted to nicotine, so that you know, continue to buy them. So, you know, it's really refreshing to hear kind of, you know, the Sanos Group's approach to this in that Nuumi product. So you mentioned, you know, kind of sort of moving back to the sort of tech angle, and I know you mentioned obviously, you know, that you have that kind of sort of software component as well as the actual hardware product itself. I wondered if maybe you could give us a little bit more insight into the actual software and how that, you know, essentially does measure the user's behavior.
Yeah, absolutely. Just before I go into this one, I don't know if you have seen, but currently on Netflix just debuted basically The Big Vape. It's basically the story about Juul. And it is exactly what you just mentioned, where, like, I mean, yes, definitely they wanted a less harmful alternative, but it's not about really quitting the habit. I mean, they still want to keep people addicted. And I think this is where now your question comes in, is basically the software part is so important, right? So the vaporizer is basically, as mentioned, an enabler, because it helps for us people to reduce their withdrawal symptoms. But ultimately, we use it to collect data for the software, which is a mobile app that serves as the user interface to provide the behavior therapy and guidance that's so important in this quitting process. So the app includes a dashboard, a training program, AI-based coaching, and a therapy toolbox. And so the vaporizer, when it's coupled basically, and also when it's offline, is basically tracking your behavior, and that is transferred and presented via dashboard to the users. And 2 weeks after the program started, and let's say users managed the transition to the vaporizer, the users become kind of like presented a daily puff budget. That's basically their average daily puffs they needed throughout the day over the last 2 days. It's kind of like the baseline, what keeps them basically happy in terms of their desire for nicotine. Mm-hmm. And with this baseline and that puff budget, basically, we then start to gradually basically reduce the nicotine and encourage them not to exceed basically the number of allotted puffs that we give them. So you can imagine it's a bit similar to like a diet app, where you're motivated to not exceed a certain number of calories per day. So this is how we wean them off. And then in the app, basically at the same time, because it's smart, over time, the budget is also gradually reduced to basically support the user of getting rid of the habit to ultimately could even stop using the vaporizer.
Understood. And I think one of the interesting things there that you mentioned was around the AI coach feature that the software product has. How does that kind of sort of work, and how does the software, you know, ultimately discourage users from consuming nicotine and actually kind of, you know, in the end, as the end goal is to actually break that habit?
Yeah, I mean, the technology, I think the data and AI plays a big role in the process of breaking the habit, because I mean, actually smoking is a very nasty habit, because smoke contains nicotine, and that floods our brain with happy hormones, right? Therefore, cigarettes are making moments or pleasant moments more pleasant and unpleasant moments less unpleasant. And our minds are fooling us to thinking that basically the cigarette is the salvation in any situation. And that's why smokers holding so tightly onto the cigarettes, even though they know, you know, it's a harmful behavior. So where the tech and the AI comes really in the quitting process is that first, basically, if you want to change a behavior, you need to become aware about your behavior, right? And so this is where, for example, the digital and tracking feature really comes in, because it kind of mirrors your behavior nonstop, and people get more and more aware about what is happening and what I'm actually doing. And so they are then also learn through the training program in our app through how to deal with actually stress, because most of these affective states, when they are basically smoking a cigarette, has a lot to do with negative emotions and stress, which is the #1 cause of smoking. And because they have now this mirror, they're creating more and more awareness, and we can use them to coach them, because we get to know why they're triggered, what is the stress that are causing it. And so we start to coach them because we can see even on a day, let's say they're allowed to do 200 puffs, and by midday they already crossed more than 100 puffs. We can predict, for example, today, if we not start and help them intervene, they're not gonna stay within their budget. And then this goes even further, because over time we can really measure patterns of use, so that by certain parameters we can predict that on a specific date, time, and place, the model will predict with a probability of 80% that the person will basically smoke in the next 5 to 10 minutes. And that really allows us then to intervene in suggesting exercises they have learned in these in the training program, how to overcome cravings, and to really do kind of an real-time therapy, real-time intervention enabled by technology.
Really interesting, really interesting. So yeah, I guess kind of sort of on that basis, unlike most quit methods, I would probably call them, that generally require smokers to quit cold turkey, your program seems to be a much more kind of sort of gradual process. So yeah, it'd be good to kind of understand in that sense how the program works, and kind of exactly what sort of support that they can expect from your company or the software in the, during this time.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, first, I think this is like cold turkey is really like this. You stop from one day on another, and then you're confronted with a magnitude of challenges, withdrawal symptoms, the habit, everything kicks in, and it's like, your willpower will deplete very quickly, and that's why most people fail. And so Nuumi basically maps this entire process out for you and breaks it down into different phases. So you have different phases, you have different goals. So for example, we have 3 phases that basically consist of switch, reduce, and quit. So first, ultimately, users just switch from either a tobacco cigarette or even a vape to our Nuumi vaporizer. And the good thing is it can still be used in your habitual situations, right? When you go for a break with your coffee, we don't say, oh, you need to stop doing all of that. We're just you need to do one thing, which is now using the vaporizer, replacing your nicotine, basically consumption. And once you basically successfully transition, and we have the data, as mentioned before, we start the second phase, which is reducing. So then based on your individual needs, the nicotine is gradually reduced over time to wean you off nicotine. And at the same time, basically, users go through a behavioral training to build up competencies, learn more knowledge, and also get support from the AI coach to break basically the habit and gradually reduce also their puff budgets, basically. And then when you're at a point where, let's say, your nicotine is close to 0 or 0, and you have developed a lot of skills and already reduced your habits, then only we ask you to really quit and put the vaporizer aside, and now do the last step to become really a non-smoker, and also not only non-smoking, but also like nicotine-free, that you're really relieved and start like kind of like a new life.
Absolutely, understood. So, I mean, obviously we've kind of sort of, I guess, heard some differences in terms of, your smoking intervention methods against, what's kind of currently out there. How is your program, or is your program scientifically backed up and tested in that sense?
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing is the scientific research or let's say even evidence is the foundation of Nuumi. So when we designed the product, the first thing what we did is we really looked out of what is state of the art at the moment, and how can we combine this into one product. This is basically what you're now finding is that in our product, and how we clearly differentiate is three clear, I would say, components. The first is that unlike other solutions, it's an integrated solution that gives you both a physical therapy, a nicotine replacement therapy, and a psychological therapy. So you can use patches in an app, but they're not working together, they're not combined, and you're integrating this. And this is so important, basically, like the medical guidelines advise you to do. This is the most successful way of quitting. So that's number one. The second one is the smart vaporizer, right? As mentioned throughout our talk, is that we can track really behavior, and therefore we are able to personalize. So the tracking gives us so much feedback and also so much insight that helps in basically the point 3 is personalizing the individual or individualized these both therapies to really make this engaging for the user, that they can really see progress, because we can make it transparent. And so all of these things together, basically, integrated solution, having a trackable device, and then personalizing this results basically in a much higher therapy adherence. And this is also ultimately leading to therapy success. And we just launched actually this month our first clinical trial, which will be probably conducted and completed over the next 6 months. So now that all, let's say, the evidence we put in there, that it's also validated, and we have like a validated quit rate, so to say.
Absolutely. So your product has obviously recently launched in Germany, and from what I understand from previous conversations we've had off screen, is the aim to kind of sort of launch in the UK soon. I wonder if you could tell us a bit about your expansions and what you look to achieve in the UK market. Last question from me.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to share more about market feedback from Germany, but also discuss the expansion plan to the UK. I mean, we launched about 4 months ago, and we are growing consistently months over months, and we have strong response from customers who embraced our product and see the benefits that it offers. And so that positive feedback is really encouraging, and it underscores also really the potential of the new product category we are defining, right? Because we're the first that kind of really combine these two elements of a smart vaporizer with a personalized app for therapy. And now turning to the UK, we really see this market as an exciting opportunity, and also think that can be instrumental in our company's growth. And one of these key reasons is why we think the UK will be so crucial is the endorsement and support from both the government and their National Health Service, how they view e-cigarettes. Their recognition of e-cigarettes as a viable alternative to traditional tobacco smoking not only demonstrates the forward-thinking approach, but also indicates that the market is open to innovation and offers a receptive audience for our product. And especially with the recent campaign, the NHS Quit Smoking Service launched the Swap to Stop campaign. Not sure if you heard about it, encouraging 1 million smokers in the UK to switch to a less harmful alternative like e-cigarettes. That goes exactly into our direction. And we are even going a step further, right? Because just using e-cigarettes would not solve the problem ultimately. And that's why we think on top of that, then providing Nuumi, where it also helps you doing the last step of even quitting vaping. It should be a really good product value proposition for the UK market. And absolutely. Yeah, that's also why, just last but not least, we are currently raising actually a crowdfunding campaign on Seedrs in the UK, in particular, really to accelerate our UK market launch and our go-to-market activities.
Absolutely. Well, look, I think that concludes our conversation. It's clear that the potential for transformation in smoking intervention and behavior tracking is certainly the way forward, and it's truly inspiring in terms of what you guys are doing over at the Sanos Group, and I'm really excited to kind of continue watching your journey and watching the business grow. For those or anybody that's eager to learn more about Nuumi and the remarkable strides really that the Sanos Group are taking, please go ahead and visit their website at www.sanosgroup.co. As always, remember to subscribe.
Go to nuumi.de is better. NUUMI.de, yes. That's because, I mean, the Sanos Group is just the brand behind, and Nuumi, the brand is Nuumi.
There you go. There you have it. Well, look, Tobias, thanks a lot for your time. And it's been a pleasure having you on the show, and hope we continue the lines of communication off screen as well.
Likewise. Thank you so much for having us.
Cheers. Thanks.
Thank you.